Archon 888 back with part 2 of our presentation. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, what the heck's wrong with you? Okay, I'll shut up now.
That on September the 11th, 1995, a camp truck knowingly violated a no-go zone and was subsequently disabled by an early warning device. 2 or 3 armed natives then ran from the truck, firing semi-automatic weapons at RCMP officers, which sparked a gun battle lasting nearly 2 hours, during which hundreds of rounds were fired. Crown disclosures, trial evidence, and Westcam video surveillance footage taken by Westcam at 6,000 to 8,000 feet have shown that this police statement was false. Here we can see a note scribbled on Assistant Commissioner Dennis Brown's notes, which appears to indicate that this bombing incident was taped accidentally. Is this also why no video footage was available for the suburban shooting? Constable Kevin Mann, who was the officer in charge at the scene and the first to approach the destroyed truck, testified that the first shots fired on September the 11th, 1995, were fired by the RCMP, and the occupants of the truck never fired upon himself or his team members. Constable S.H. Arthur testified that he saw 2 occupants running from the truck and that neither were carrying weapons. He also testified that he fired upon the unarmed occupants of the truck as they were leaving a lake with their hands in the air and within what was supposed to be a guaranteed safe zone. Constable Malcolm Callender testified that on the morning of September the 12th, 1995, he was manning a sniper's position when he spotted a man walking from the camp towards the lake. He testified, Constable O'Gorman took the first shot, which hit at the man's feet. O'Gorman took another shot before he handed the rifle to Corporal Whiten, who took another shot. Callender learned an hour later that the shots were fired into the claimed safe zone.
A shot was taken, and pretty clear the shot was intended to kill. Now, that, you see, you have to sort of wonder, question this, is the RCMP made no news announcement about that. This was just a failed shot, and it's only by, you know, the probably the fortunes of the wind or the luck that there wasn't a dead body. Consider then what the situation would be. I mean, I think the RCMP are just lucky that that this wasn't, that somebody in the RCMP isn't on trial.
I'll offer one alternative explanation. God is good.
Over that issue.
Important in this case is to remember that this is a resource-based province. There are billions and billions of dollars of real estate and resources involved here. The large corporate law firms that have dominated the political and economic landscape here for some time are also factors. You have a law firm, for instance, Russell and Dumoulin, which is the law firm from which the Chief Justice of this province, Alan McEachern, comes from. That law firm is itself, Russell and Dumoulin, based in BC, in turn part of a national and international law partnership. What we saw, for instance, was with one of the very large land claims cases in BC, a land claim involving 25,000 square kilometers, I believe, of unceded Gitxsan territory, was that you had this preposterous situation whereby the Chief Justice of this province sat on a case in which most of the lawyers representing both levels of government came from his law firm, Russell and Dumoulin. Now, while you may think that was bizarre, what was more bizarre is that nobody said anything about it at the time. The powers that be, the academics that I spoke about, certainly knew what was going on here. Nobody said anything. Nobody said, is it appropriate that the Chief Justice sit on a case at which most of the lawyers representing the government are his former partners and associates? Is that not a conflict of interest? Well, it isn't a conflict of interest in BC because that is the interest. There is no conflict. You have a law firm by the name of Ladner Downs. Ladner Downs is itself part of a national partnership called Osler Renault Ladner. This is a law firm in which the Prime Minister is a senior partner. This is also a law firm at which Lyle James engaged, apparently, we understand, to handle his business, and was in fact advising Mr. James in the lead up to the standoff.
At the beginning of the Gustafson Lake standoff, RCMP were involved only as outside observers. The police readily acknowledged that they had no right to be involved in this dispute. So how did they become involved, and in such a major way? The record shows that it was after the police introduction of criminalization through alleged terrorist acts that their presence was not seriously questioned. Why, how, and when did a native land dispute escalate into a major police and military operation?
Do have the video, like you said earlier. This is footage that actually, I guess the RCMP were taking themselves, and it's been presented in court. So what do we see when we're looking at this, this clip?
I'll address that really quickly.
Yeah.
What we hear, first of all, going back to the standoff last year, what we hear the RCMP telling the public that of the incident of the red truck. And what they told us in the beginning, the official press report was, Peter Montague stated very clearly that 2 occupants went out with a red truck outside of the perimeters of the ceasefire agreement, they were fully armed, that they were spotted as being fully armed with guns. They traveled down the road. They had to use a disabling device to stop the machine so that they could arrest them. But when the occupants were stopped by the disabling device, they jumped out the car, they grabbed AK-47s, and they started shooting at the police. Dosanjh, the Attorney General of this province, without investigating the incident, took that report and said that there were 3 occupants on a press release, and said there were 3 occupants that jumped out the car and started firing on the police. That was the justification for 20,000 rounds of bullets that were fired strictly by the RCMP that day. And what you see in the film, in this film, with their own eye in the sky, is you see the truth that, 1, the occupants did not have any guns in their hands, that while they were driving down the road just after they were going to pick up the elders, that while they were driving down the road, they were trying to get water for the elders. This disabling device, which is really plastic explosives, which is nothing less than a very powerful landmine of itself, runs over the landmine, hits the landmine, and you see the truck blowing up, the whole front of the truck hood blowing back. You then see the 2 occupants miraculously thrown out with no guns in their hands, thrown out by the impact of the explosion. They run and seek sanctuary by trying to swim across the lake.
Yeah, I think.
And then you see
corner.
An APC come right forward and ram the truck. If they didn't kill them, if they didn't kill those unarmed occupants the first time, they were going to kill it with the APC. Then the next thing you see a dog jumping out of the back of the truck, and you see 2 sharpshooters right there alongside of the road, blasting the dog and killing the dog. That is where the first shots went out that day on September the 11th. That is what started the incident of September the 11th.
Okay.
Then you see two people going across the lake in the eye in the sky. They're swimming. And you see thousands or hundreds of rounds being hit on the water looking like missiles. You see two people surrendering when they come out of the lake. And you see the RCMP shooting at them before they tell them to put their hands up. One person gets shot. And it just follows a pattern of all the lies that were told to you, the public. You, the public, were told many lies. You were told a lie about an August the 27th event where two people were supposed to have been shot in the flak jackets. There is no testimony where they had an eye in the sky, the film to that August 27th event. They never introduced it into court because it never existed, so that they could gain your sympathy against the occupants of the camp. On September the 4th, they used the excuse. They knew damn well that there was nobody inside of that camp shooting at the suburban at night, stalking them, but they used it in their own night radar photo, shows that nobody was there. They used that excuse. Their own forensic analysis shows it was hit by a tree branch, but they used that as an excuse to bring in the APCs.
I want you to talk about the APCs a bit, because to give an idea of what that is, because in the visuals, it's hard to tell, like, is it tank size? Are we talking military here?
They're 13 tons. They're 13 tons armored personnel carriers. They look like tanks to me. They had, at one point, 4 of them were very, very close to the camp and firing thousands of rounds. This is on September 11th. This is after they bombed a truck. And they told the public that the people in the red truck who were on their way to pick up elders and to pick up water, they told the public that the people in the truck were shooting at them. But in court, we've had testimony from about 6 or 7 different police officers, as well as military, that say nobody was shooting at them, that it was them who were shooting at the people. And so we have the testimony here.
And that they were actually getting themselves caught up in the crossfire. The 20,000 rounds, what is the light moment about all of this, and I'm sure Flo can tell you, is that they were sort of laughing on the inside of the camp to a degree, because while they're shooting at each other in all directions with 20,000 rounds going completely crazy, with the gunfires that they started that day, everybody's sitting in the camp having coffee while they're shooting at each other. And you can almost, to some degree, you can see that right in there, that everybody's in the camp by the campfire having coffee while they're shooting at one another. But with that tank situation too, and I just want to make it clear, because I want to make it that the only testimony that has come out against Jones Ignace, is that they say that he fired a shot at the tanks right after they created the incident of September the 11th. And then that tanks, when they said that there was a shot that hit the tank, right, and that one of the Earth members inside of the tank yelled, "Shoot, eliminate the shooter." And they go and they started chasing a 64-year-old man with an APC that travels roughly 90 kilometers a minute through the bush. They were trying to run down Jones William Ignace. And the only incident that links him to anything that would be considered a charge, the only thing that they've said about him in court is that while they were trying to run him down, that he may have tried to disengage the tires by getting the tires, but that he was jumping in and out, and that they were trying to kill the old man. And the only thing that saved his life is when he went into the woods. He jumped into the woods, he hit a tree, and it disabled the steering device. That is what happened that day. They tried to kill him, and now he is the only person that has been in jail for 14 months for this, which is nothing less than self-defense of the highest degree. But we're not going to try to convince the people here, the public. The films themselves will show what happened.
The end result of all of this, at the end of the trial, Wolverine was sentenced to, I believe it was another 8 years. No credit for the time already served. When he finally got out on parole, he fled to the United States and was granted refugee status. Because Canada is such a wonderful, wonderful country to live in.